Ever spent 3 hours crafting the perfect text message, only to delete it and send okay instead? Or walked into a room and immediately felt like you were drowning in everyone else's emotions? What about those moments when people call you mysterious, but you're just trying to figure out if they can handle the real you? If you're nodding your head right now, congratulations, you're probably an INFJ, and you've just stumbled upon the most relatable content you'll watch today. We're that rare 1% of the population that everyone seems to misunderstand, and honestly, we're tired of pretending we're not completely different from everyone else. Look, I get it. You've probably been told you're too sensitive, too complicated, or too intense more times than you can count. You've learned to mask parts of yourself just to fit in, and you're exhausted from trying to explain why you do the things you do. Well, today we're throwing that mask out the window. We're diving deep into 7 behaviors that make perfect sense to us but drive everyone else absolutely insane. These aren't flaws we need to fix. They're superpowers that come with their own instruction manual. So grab your favorite comfort drink, find your coziest spot, and let's finally talk about what it's really like to be us. Trust me, you're going to feel so seen by the end of this video. 1. The perfectionist paralysis that nobody sees coming. Let's start with something that'll hit close to home for every INFJ watching this. You know that feeling when you're working on a project, and instead of just getting it done, you spend 3 hours perfecting the first paragraph? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Here's the thing, INFJs don't just want to do things well. We want to do them perfectly. And I don't mean the kind of perfectionism that's about showing off or impressing others. Nope, this is deeper than that. It's about having this internal vision of how something should be and feeling physically uncomfortable when reality doesn't match that vision. Picture this, you're writing an email to your boss. Simple enough, right? Wrong. You write it, rewrite it, check the tone, make sure it's not too formal but not too casual. Consider whether that comma should be there. And before you know it, you've spent 45 minutes on what should have been a 2-minute task. To everyone else, you just look slow or indecisive. They don't understand that inside your head, you're running through 17 different scenarios of how this email could be misinterpreted. You're not being dramatic, you're being thorough. But try explaining that to someone who just wants you to hit send already. This perfectionist paralysis shows up everywhere. In our work, our relationships, even in choosing what to wear in the morning. We see all the possibilities, all the potential outcomes, and we want to pick the perfect one. The problem? There's rarely a perfect choice, and while we're busy looking for it, life keeps moving forward. The most frustrating part? Other people think we're just being difficult or overthinking things. They don't realize that for us, doing something halfway feels worse than not doing it at all. It's like having a song stuck in your head that never quite resolves. That's what unfinished or imperfect work feels like to an INFJ. 2. The emotional sponge syndrome. Alright, let's talk about something that makes INFJs feel like they're going crazy sometimes. You walk into a room, and immediately you can feel the tension between 2 people who had an argument 3 hours ago. You sit down at a restaurant, and suddenly you're overwhelmed by the sadness of the couple at the table next to you. Sound familiar? This is what I call the emotional sponge syndrome, and it's one of the most exhausting parts of being an INFJ. We don't just empathize with people. We literally absorb their emotions like a sponge soaks up water. And just like a sponge, we can only hold so much before we start dripping everywhere. The worst part? Most people don't believe this is real. They think we're being dramatic or attention-seeking when we say we can feel other people's emotions. But here's the truth. We're not trying to be psychic or special. We're just wired differently. Our brains pick up on micro-expressions, body language, and energy shifts that others miss completely. I remember being at a family gathering where everyone was laughing and having a great time, but I couldn't shake this feeling of sadness. I kept looking around, trying to figure out where it was coming from. Later, I found out my cousin had just gotten some bad news about a job interview, but was trying to hide it from everyone. She was across the room, putting on a brave face, but somehow I picked up on her disappointment. This emotional absorption doesn't just happen with negative emotions either. We pick up on excitement, anxiety, love, frustration, you name it. It's like having emotional radar that's always on, and there's no off switch. By the end of a day around people, we're emotionally exhausted, carrying around feelings that aren't even ours. Other people get frustrated with us because they think we're being moody or unpredictable. They don't understand that we're processing not just our own emotions, but everyone else's too. It's like trying to have a conversation while 10 different songs are playing in the background. Overwhelming doesn't even begin to cover it. 3. The contradiction complex. Here's where things get really interesting and probably really annoying for anyone trying to understand an INFJ. We're walking contradictions and we know it. We want deep, meaningful connections with people, but we also need tons of alone time. We're incredibly intuitive about others, but completely clueless about ourselves sometimes. We're perfectionists who are also procrastinators. Make it make sense, right? This contradiction complex drives other people absolutely nuts. They can't figure us out because just when they think they've got us pegged, we do something completely unexpected. One day we're the life of the party, engaging everyone in deep conversations about the meaning of life. The next day, we're hiding in our room, avoiding phone calls and pretending we're not home when someone knocks. Take our relationship with social situations, for example. We genuinely love connecting with people on a deep level. There's nothing better than those late-night conversations where someone opens up about their dreams and fears. We live for those moments of real human connection. But then, after 2 hours of that intensity, we're completely drained and need to disappear for the next 3 days to recharge. People think we're being flaky or inconsistent. They don't understand that both sides of us are equally real and equally important. We're not being fake when we're social and engaged, and we're not being antisocial when we need to retreat. We're just complex beings trying to balance different needs that often seem to contradict each other. The planning contradiction is another big one. We're future-focused people who love making plans and having goals. We can spend hours creating detailed schedules and mapping out our ideal life. But then, when it comes time to actually execute those plans, we get overwhelmed by all the possibilities and end up changing course completely. It's like having two different people living in the same brain, one who's organized and goal-oriented, and another who's spontaneous and goes with the flow. Both are authentically us, but trying to explain that to someone who prefers consistency is like trying to explain color to someone who's never seen it. 4. The small talk allergic reaction. Oh boy, here's a big one that every INFJ will relate to. We have what I like to call a severe allergic reaction to small talk. And I don't mean we just prefer deeper conversations. I mean small talk literally makes us uncomfortable, like wearing a sweater made of sandpaper. You know that feeling when someone asks, "How about this weather?" and you internally groan? That's not because we're antisocial or think we're better than everyone else. It's because small talk feels like eating cotton candy when you're starving for a real meal. It's empty calories that don't satisfy the hunger for genuine connection. The problem is, small talk serves a purpose in society. It's how people warm up to each other, how they test the waters before diving into deeper topics. But for INFJs, it feels like wasting precious time and energy on surface-level interactions when we could be having real conversations about things that actually matter. Picture this scenario. You're at a networking event, and someone approaches you with the classic, "So, what do you do for work?" You answer, and they respond with something generic like, "Oh, that's nice." Then there's this awkward pause where you're both supposed to keep the conversation going with more meaningless exchanges. Meanwhile, you're dying inside, wanting to ask them about their dreams, their fears, what keeps them up at night, what makes them feel truly alive. Other people think we're being rude or antisocial when we struggle with small talk. They don't understand that we're not trying to be difficult. We're just wired for depth. It's like being a deep-sea diver who's forced to stay in the shallow end of the pool. We can do it, but it's not where we thrive. The most frustrating part is that our discomfort with small talk can make us seem standoffish or unfriendly, when really we're just waiting for the conversation to get to the good stuff. We're not being snobby, we're being genuine. We want to know who you really are, not just what you do for a living or how you feel about the weather. 5. The Overthinking Olympics champion. If overthinking were an Olympic sport, INFJs would take home the gold medal every single time. And not just any gold medal, we'd set new world records while we're at it. We don't just think about things once or twice. We think about them from every possible angle, consider every potential outcome, and then think about all the ways we might have thought about it wrong. This overthinking superpower shows up in everything we do. You send a text message and then spend the next hour analyzing whether the tone was right, if you should have used a different emoji, and what the 3-minute delay in response might mean. You have a conversation with someone and then replay it in your head for the next week, wondering if you said something wrong or if they seemed a little off. The worst part? We know we're doing it. We're fully aware that we're overthinking, but we can't seem to stop. It's like being trapped in a hamster wheel made of thoughts, and every time we try to get off, our brain presents us with one more scenario to consider. Other people find this exhausting to watch. They'll tell us to just let it go, or don't worry about it so much, as if we haven't already tried that approach 1,000 times. They don't understand that for us, not thinking something through completely feels irresponsible and anxiety-inducing. Take decision-making, for example. What should be a simple choice becomes a complex analysis of pros and cons, potential regrets, and long-term consequences. Choosing a restaurant for dinner becomes a philosophical journey through cuisine preferences, dietary restrictions, ambience considerations, and the social implications of our choice. By the time we've finished analyzing, everyone else has already eaten. The relationship overthinking is particularly brutal. We'll analyze every interaction with our partner, friend, or family member, looking for hidden meanings and subtle signs. Did they take a little longer to respond to that text? Are they being distant? Did that comment have a deeper meaning? We can turn a perfectly normal conversation into a complex psychological puzzle that needs solving. 6. The selective sharing struggle. Here's something that really confuses people about INFJs. We're incredibly private about our own lives while being completely open to hearing about everyone else's deepest secrets. We'll listen to someone pour their heart out for hours, offering support and understanding. But when they ask us a simple question about our own life, we clam up like we're guarding state secrets. This selective sharing struggle comes from a deep-seated fear of being misunderstood or judged. We've learned through experience that most people don't really get us, and opening up often leads to disappointment or confusion. So we become expert listeners and terrible sharers, which creates an imbalance in our relationships that drives other people crazy. People think we're being mysterious or playing games when we don't share. They don't understand that we're not trying to be secretive. We're trying to protect ourselves from the exhaustion of being misunderstood. When we do share something personal and the other person responds with confusion or dismissal, it feels like a small piece of us dies. The irony is that we desperately want to be understood and accepted for who we really are. We crave those deep connections where we can be completely authentic. But we've been burned so many times by people who couldn't handle our complexity that we've become selective about who gets to see the real us. This creates a frustrating cycle. We want connection, but we're afraid to be vulnerable. We want to be known, but we're scared of being judged. So we end up feeling lonely even when we're surrounded by people, because we're not showing them who we really are. The most annoying part for others is that we seem to have this incredible ability to understand them, but we won't let them return the favor. They feel like they're in a relationship with a therapist who never reveals anything about themselves. It's not that we don't trust them. It's that we don't trust their ability to handle our complexity without trying to fix us or change us. 7. The future-focused anxiety machine. Last but definitely not least, let's talk about our special relationship with the future. INFJs are naturally future-focused, which sounds like a good thing, right? We're planners, dreamers, visionaries who can see possibilities that others miss. But here's the catch. We don't just think about the future, we worry about it constantly. We're like anxiety machines programmed to consider every possible future scenario, especially the ones that could go wrong. We don't just plan for success. We plan for failure, disappointment, and every possible variation in between. It's like having a weather forecast for your entire life, except the forecast always includes a chance of storms. This future-focused anxiety shows up in our relationships, our careers, our daily decisions. We'll be enjoying a perfect moment with someone we love, and suddenly our brain starts calculating all the ways this could end badly. We'll be excited about a new opportunity, and then spend hours worrying about all the things that could go wrong. Other people find this exhausting. They want to live in the moment, enjoy the present, and deal with problems when they actually happen. They don't understand that for us, not thinking about the future feels dangerous and irresponsible. We're not being negative, we're being prepared. The planning paradox strikes again here. We're excellent at seeing future possibilities and making long-term plans, but we're also paralyzed by the fear that we're planning for the wrong future. What if we make the wrong choice? What if we waste years going down the wrong path? What if we miss out on something better because we're too focused on our current plan? This creates a cycle of planning and replanning that never seems to end. We'll spend months creating the perfect life plan, then scrap it all when we discover a new possibility or worry that we've missed something important. It's like being a GPS that constantly recalculates the route because it's convinced there might be a better way. Why these behaviors matter. Now, before anyone starts thinking we're just making excuses for difficult behavior, let me be clear about something. These behaviors aren't character flaws or things we need to fix. They're natural expressions of how our brains work, and understanding them is the first step toward working with them instead of against them. Each of these behaviors comes from a place of authenticity and depth. Our perfectionism comes from a genuine desire to create something beautiful and meaningful. Our emotional absorption comes from a deep capacity for empathy and connection. Our contradictions come from the complexity of human nature that we're not afraid to embrace. The problem isn't that we have these behaviors. It's that we live in a world that doesn't always understand or appreciate them. We're often made to feel like we're too much, too sensitive, too complicated, too intense. But the truth is, the world needs people who think deeply, feel deeply, and care deeply about getting things right. Working with your INFJ nature. So what's an INFJ to do with all these supposedly irritating behaviors? First, recognize that they're not bugs in your system. They're features. Your perfectionism, when channeled correctly, creates beautiful work that touches people's lives. Your emotional absorption, when managed properly, allows you to help others in ways that no one else can. The key is learning to work with your nature instead of fighting against it. If you're a perfectionist, build extra time into your schedule for that deep work. If you absorb emotions, learn to create boundaries and practice emotional cleansing techniques. If you overthink, set specific times for analysis and stick to them. Most importantly, find your tribe. Surround yourself with people who understand and appreciate your complexity. You don't need to change who you are, you need to find people who get you in situations where your natural tendencies are assets rather than liabilities. The gift of understanding. Here's what I want every INFJ to understand. You're not broken, difficult, or too much. You're just wired differently, and that's exactly what the world needs. Your depth, your empathy, your ability to see possibilities that others miss, these are gifts, not burdens. The people who get frustrated with these behaviors are often the ones who aren't ready for the depth and authenticity that you bring to the table. That's okay. Not everyone is meant to understand you, and that's not your responsibility to fix. Instead of trying to be less of who you are, focus on being more of who you are in the right environments with the right people. Find work that honors your need for meaning and depth. Build relationships with people who appreciate your complexity. Create spaces where you can be fully yourself without apology. Conclusion: living as an INFJ in a world that often doesn't understand us can be challenging, but it's also incredibly rewarding. These 7 behaviors that seem so irritating to others are actually expressions of our deepest values and strongest gifts. Our perfectionism reflects our commitment to excellence. Our emotional absorption shows our capacity for empathy. Our contradictions reveal our comfort with complexity. The key is not to eliminate these behaviors, but to understand them, manage them, and find ways to express them that serve us and the world around us. We don't need to become less sensitive, less complex, or less intense. We need to become more skilled at navigating the world while staying true to our nature. Remember, being an INFJ is not a limitation. It's a superpower that comes with its own instruction manual. These behaviors might seem irritating to others, but they're part of what makes us uniquely capable of creating deep connections, meaningful work, and positive change in the world. So the next time someone tells you you're overthinking, being too sensitive, or making things too complicated, remember this: you're not the problem. You're just operating on a different frequency, and that frequency is exactly what the world needs more of. Keep being your complex, contradictory, perfectly imperfect INFJ self. The world is a better place because of people like us, even if it doesn't always know how to handle us. And that's their loss, not ours. Thanks for watching, and remember, you're not alone in this beautiful, complicated journey of being an INFJ. We're all in this together, overthinking our way to a better tomorrow, one perfectly imperfect step at a time.